The extraordinary variety of plants and animals on Earth make our planet unique. In its harmony and balance, the spectacle of nature is born of an age-old evolution that has endured almost as long as the Earth itself. To date, scientists have discovered nearly 2 million species. But this represents only 15% of life on Earth. Huge swaths of this planet's biodiversity are completely unknown, especially in our forests and oceans. Biodiversity produces oxygen, provides food for plants and animals, and helps to purify the soil and water. Our forests and oceans play an essential role in regulating climate, allowing billions of organisms to celebrate life on Earth. But this fragile balance is threatened.
Our lives depend on biological diversity. Species and ecosystems are disappearing at an unsustainable rate. We humans are the cause. We stand to lose a wide variety of environmental goods and services that we take for granted.
Researchers believe that the Earth is undergoing one of the most significant mass extinction events in its history, caused by our civilization. Our expansion is affecting the ecosystems of all other species.
We are changing our world, and species are disappearing.
As humans, we can have a drastic effect on this planet. We can't just do things and not think about the long-term consequences.
It's a serious issue. We need to change minds and change attitudes towards nature.
Human impact on biodiversity has greatly increased since the start of the Industrial Revolution during the 18th century. Massive technological and economic development have driven the expansion of our civilization across the planet. The Earth's population has grown from 700 million to 7 billion in less than 300 years. Worldwide, humanity has become a phenomenal force. Greenhouse gas levels have not been this high for over 1 million years. We have stripped large predators of their territories by confining them to reserves or by destroying the world's large forests. All over the Earth, plants and animals are increasingly struggling to coexist with humanity. Every day, nearly 130 species go extinct, probably one of the highest rates of extinction the Earth has ever seen. For several years, the oceanographic schooner Sedna 4 has been sailing the world's oceans. After expeditions in the Arctic and Antarctic, its crew has now embarked on a 3-year voyage around the world. During their mission, 1,000 days for the planet, they will meet with scientists who have dedicated their lives to protecting biodiversity. Mission leader, Jean Lemire.
We set sail for Central America, a region with one of the highest diversity of species in the world. The preservation of habitats here is vital to the survival of thousands of species of fish, reptiles, and mammals. Here, the many many shapes and bright colors of biodiversity stimulate our desire to protect them even more.
In Costa Rica, the team sets off in search of one of the last big cats of the Americas. These top predators in the food chain help control populations in their ecosystems. Scientists call the jaguar an umbrella species. By protecting it, the balance among all the other species that share its habitat is also protected. Unfortunately, the jaguar is threatened. Humans hunt its prey, and farms, ranches, and ever-expanding urbanization are fragmenting its territory. In less than a century, the jaguar's habitat has been cut in half. Today, it is confined to pockets of land that are becoming smaller and smaller. Maintaining connections among these pockets of land is essential to the genetic health of the species, because jaguars are part of a single extended family that stretches from Mexico to Argentina. In eastern Costa Rica, a reserve has been created to protect one of the jaguar's habitats. This is a private reserve that regularly attracts scientists such as biologist Jose Gonzalez and Jan Schipper. They have dedicated their lives to protecting these big cats.
Nice spot.
Yeah. Oh, look at there, look at there.
Oh, yeah.
Those are jaguar marks.
Wow, even there.
All the way up.
So that's a good spot for jaguar.
This is a perfect spot. Yeah. This is the place we're shooting.
A jaguar has marked its territory by scratching a tree.
Get sunlight direct to it, and then the lock.
Installing a motion sensing camera will record the passage of jaguars and photo ID them. Using photographs over several years, researchers have shown that the reserve is frequented by about 14 jaguars. And videos highlight the problem of jaguars coexisting with local farmers.
Oh, look at that.
Oh my
What's
God.
this?
That's definitely a cow, and that looks like Cora.
Yeah, that's Cora, for sure. That's amazing.
That's amazing. Wow, see the power in his jaws?
Wow.
Wow.
With the strength of the animal.
Yeah. So I suppose that, you know, when a jaguar cut a cow like this, it brings lots of conflict.
Yeah, because that's the basis for conflict, people hunting jaguars in revenge. But on the other side, it is also a consequence of problems because people is hunting the prey base. So that's why they go out and hunt cattle, because they don't have anything else to eat.
Jaguars are more and more threatened because the increased conversion of virgin forest into livestock pasture reduces the prey available to them. The reserve has an area of about 100 square kilometers, which is not enough to support the jaguar population. Today, the reserve is bordered by a nearly continuous succession of pastures and cattle farms. The jaguars find it difficult to move among the isolated pockets of forest.
You can see there's only little patches here and there of forest with agriculture, clear-cut areas for cattle and so forth. Pastures obviously has very little value in terms of a jaguar being able to cross. So we don't necessarily need continuous virgin forest from here to the coast. We just need a mix of forest types along with different types of more sustainable agriculture to connect it. And that's a lot easier to sell that to landowners instead of saying, oh, we need to take your land away and put it in conservation.
The challenge for scientists is to protect the jaguars when they leave the reserve's boundaries. To do so, they must establish migration corridors. In this way, they hope to convince farmers to preserve sections of forest on their land that allow the big cats and their prey to move about their territory. But first, they must capture one.
We use some pheromones to attract the animals.
By equipping a jaguar with a tracking collar, the scientists will be able to precisely monitor its movements.
And this is the trap. So it has a little mechanism like right in the bottom. We're gonna check it right now just to see if it's working fine. If jaguars disappear, what we're gonna see is just overabundance of many other species, probably changing entirely what we know as biodiversity right now. So it's a huge change that is gonna occur. That probably also works when you don't have sharks in the sea. The entire community changes.
Large predators are threatened all over the world, both on land and in the ocean. In recent decades, populations of sharks, tuna, and swordfish have declined by 90% around the world. During this same period, fishing intensity has increased dramatically. More and more, ecosystems are suffering the consequences of this overexploitation. In the coral reefs of the Caribbean, large predators are increasingly rare, which has weakened ecosystems and opened up a niche for an invasive species. The lionfish. Biologist Tim Pusak of the University of Oregon has studied this phenomenon for many years.
So lionfish that naturally live in the Indo-Pacific have been taken from their home by humans, brought over to the US because people like to have them in their aquariums. They're beautiful, stunning fish. It's great to look at them. The problem is they like to eat, and they like to eat a lot. So they'll tend to eat all the other fish that are in the aquarium, and so people just release it into the ocean.
Lionfish have begun to proliferate in Caribbean waters. Genetic studies show that the population began with only 6 individuals. Scientists are now studying the consequences of their presence in the food chain.
It appears that they can eat prey items that are up to about half their body size, which is rather large. They eat every and anything they can get their mouth on. Studies have found that a single lionfish could reduce the number of small coral reef fish by about 90%, so they're having a drastic effect, much greater than any native fish would have.
The smaller fish eaten by the lionfish generally consume large amounts of algae. With no fish left to eat the algae, they proliferate to the point where they suffocate the reef. The lionfish adapted quickly to its new habitat, and this fierce predator has taken advantage of the weakened ecosystems.
Populations exploded since the 1990s and now extend throughout the Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico, up the eastern seaboard of the US, and working their way down the coast of South America.
The remarkable adaptation of this invasive species to its new environment, combined with the overfishing of large fish, has weakened the health of coral reefs in the Caribbean. Panama has not been spared the influx of invasive species, which are weakening some of the world's richest ecosystems. These ecosystems are home to nearly 50% of the world's amphibian species. Frogs occupy one of the most important niches in the food chain. They consume large amounts of harmful insects and serve as food themselves for many species of reptiles, birds, and fish. In the field of medicine, they have also led to the development of antibiotics and are important in cancer research. Over the past 250 million years, they have withstood many catastrophes affecting life on Earth. But today, frogs are in trouble. A mysterious disease is attacking them where their numbers are highest. To make matters worse, these frogs are also weakened by insecticides and habitat loss. In just a few years, over 100 species have gone extinct. A few years ago, biologist Edgardo Griffith used to come to this river to study frogs.
I used to find 56 species of frogs around this stream alone. And now can't hear anything, really, you know.
The cause of this sharp decline? An invasive species. A mysterious fungus called Chytrid has invaded the rivers of Panama's mountains.
The fungus arrived in 2005, killed 90% of the amphibian community, and in some cases 100% of the individuals of certain species. Came, kill, stay, and at the same time it's moving eastward, but it's also coming up from South America.
Found in Mexico as early as 1972, the disease spread to Central America. Other infection sites have been found all over the world. Today, over a third of the world's 6,000 known amphibian species are threatened with extinction.
To me, I used to be a field biologist. Now I think I'm like an extinction biologist.
For scientists, time is running out. Edgardo and his colleagues are trying to capture living frogs in the hopes of learning more about the disease. They organize regular searches in Panama's rivers. Chytrid is spreading at a rate of over 30 kilometers per year. Scientists are trying to understand how it spreads from region to region. When a species nears extinction in nature, scientists often have no other choice but to remove the few survivors from the wild.
This one might be one of the species that we need to focus more into it and see why they survive, you know.
The last remaining individuals of many frog species are today conserved in sterilized containers, isolated from the outside world, where the dangerous fungus threatens their survival. Like Noah's Arks, these containers are only a fragile and temporary means to preserve the genetic heritage of dozens of amphibian species. But this is the best that scientists can do.
Some of them are not dealing with Chytrid yet in their populations, but we know it's going to get there sooner or later. So we're trying to rescue as many as we can, try to breed them, try to keep them healthy. This might be the last one, so it's a huge responsibility for us.
Yeah. In the name of all the frogs dying on the jungle floor, the search continues. Long considered among the most ideal frog habitats, Panama's forests are now a real threat to their survival. Today, this unprecedented epidemic is threatening the ecological balance of ecosystems around the world. In the Cayman Islands, it's increasing human population that is harming habitats. Over half of the original environment has been destroyed.
The population of the Cayman Islands is doubling every 12 years. What that means is the footprint on the land here that's taken over by humans is doubling every 12 years.
This habitat reduction is disastrous for certain endemic species, such as the blue iguana. Found only on Grand Cayman, it is considered one of the most threatened species in the world. As the island's largest herbivore, the blue iguana eats large amounts of fruits and flowers, which helps to disperse plant seeds over large areas. This is vital for maintaining the island's delicate plant diversity.
In 2002, we did a very detailed survey, and it was the most depressing survey I've ever been involved in, because all of the places we used to see iguanas, there were none. We think realistically it was probably more like 12 left in the wild, and they weren't finding each other to breed. So the population was doomed. It was functionally extinct, as we put it, technically speaking. They were there, but there was no future.
In 2002, Frederick Burton left his job to dedicate himself to the recovery of this species. Through trial and error, he learned how to hatch baby iguanas in incubators, far from their natural predators.
When they hatch, they're tiny, they're about this long, but they grow very, very fast. And by the time they're 2 years old, they're naturally predator-proof, effectively. They get too big for the native snakes.
Oh, this is the captive facility. You have a few hundred iguanas.
The young iguanas are given refuge at the Grand Cayman's Royal Botanical Park. Breeding adults, responsible for the proliferation of the species, are also kept here.
They have a need for a lot of space. I mean, we found this out. Originally, when we built this facility, we thought this was all we needed. And then we discovered they needed more space. We studied them in the wild, and then we found out, whoa, an animal like this would probably have a territory of maybe an acre or something like that.
We have the
2-year-olds that we're going to put out. So Jean, these are the cages where we have the 2-year-old iguanas, the ones that we're getting ready to release into the wild.
It is now time for these young iguanas to take their true place in nature. But will this new captive-born generation succeed in recolonizing Grand Cayman's weakened environment?
Next one.
Nice.
So you will sleep there for tonight, right?
Yeah, they'll be hanging in the backpacks, the same backpacks we're going to take in the morning. So they'll cool down and they'll be fine.
Ready to go.
After years of effort, Frederick Burton convinced the government to establish 2 protected areas on the island, where he can now release his young iguanas.
So Jean, we are on the boundary now of the Collier's Wilderness Reserve. This is the protected area on our left now. It's not huge, but the island isn't big, yeah?
By protecting the reserve from the assault of development, Frederick Burton has protected more than just the iguanas, because dozens of other threatened species also live here.
We will get rid of our packs here and we'll just take the iguana in. Here you go. Here's the box. Oh yes.
Whoa.
So now he will spend all night inside this box. All night he will sleep in here, and in the morning at first light he will come out into this strange world. And the population has gone from about 12 now to about 650, 700, somewhere around there.
A human initiative saved the blue iguana from extinction. Years of effort and protection have resulted in a protected area adapted to these animals' needs. Frederick Burton now hopes that these winning conditions will allow the most threatened reptile on the planet to begin breeding in the wild again.
The perseverance of Frederick Burton is inspiring. It proves that sometimes the efforts of a few dedicated people can make up for the abuses of society.
Sometimes evolution itself can put a species at risk.
All right.
Over time, a species can become isolated on an island, like Escudo de Veraguas, off the coast of Panama. Biologist Bryson Voirin has dedicated his life to studying what some scientists believe is the rarest mammal on Earth, the pygmy three-toed sloth. These sloths live in one of the world's most productive and most useful ecosystems in terms of biodiversity, the mangrove forest.
No, that looks like mangrove. It's not. It's really shallow.
In the tropics, mangroves protect shorelines from erosion, and they provide food and shelter for many threatened species.
Oh, hey, look, it's eating. There's a sloth right there. It's a female. Yeah, she's eating a leaf. She's got it right in her mouth.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Oh, she's got a baby. Let's see if we're real quiet. Maybe we won't. It's one of the rarest mammals on Earth, and there's 2 of them right there.
The pygmy three-toed sloth is found only on the island of Escudo de Veraguas. Discovered in 2001, it was immediately classified as critically endangered. Recent studies have indicated that this sloth lives exclusively in the mangrove, making it even more vulnerable, because worldwide, mangroves are being affected by climate change and human development. At current rates, they could disappear entirely by the end of the 21st century. Bryson Voyerin is concerned about the survival of pygmy sloths because studies show that there are only 63 of them. During his last expedition, he attached radio collars to 10 sloths. Bryson expects to find them in the mangrove because the animals move very little and use the natural camouflage of the mangrove to avoid predators.
Oh, wow. There he is, right there.
Right there, in the mangroves again.
Yeah, he's still in the mangrove, so he hasn't really gone anywhere in the past month or so.
In the days that follow, he finds 9 of the 10 pygmy sloths, all in the mangrove. But the team is worried because one is missing.
Sebastian.
Jean.
Hi, Jean Sebastian.
Hi, Sebastian. Yeah, we're just at the end of the mangroves. We lost our signal a little bit. We're gonna need some help.
Okay.
In 2005, several families of fishermen took up residence on the island. Their knowledge of the area could help find the missing sloth.
It doesn't really bother.
Hay mucho.
Do you think that the one that live in the mangrove, they live in the mangrove, but there is a lot more right behind in the jungle here.
So let's check in the forest for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Muchas gracias.
This surprising information contradicts previous studies indicating that the mangrove is the pygmy sloth's sole habitat. Bryson decides to search in one of the channels leading into the forest.
Number 5 is the one that I just don't know where he went. But he might have actually gone out of the mangroves and into the forest, which would be pretty exciting because that means that he's actually eating other things besides mangrove leaves, and he's in the interior of the island maybe. Hopefully we can find him. All right, I got him on the 900 frequency. Hear that chirping? That's the sloth. So he must be straight back that way.
Every step away from the mangrove would appear to increase the credibility of the locals. But it is also possible that Bryson will only find the collar of a poached sloth. But if the sloth is found in the forest, it would be great news for the species. In nearby Costa Rica, Jan and Jose have yet to catch a jaguar. The scientists are concerned because the animal's distribution in the reserve is well known, and the lack of any tracks is surprising. They redouble their efforts in other sectors of the reserve. Capturing such a cunning animal is a huge challenge, but it's an essential part of the research, because only through a better understanding of the jaguar's migration patterns can its living space be increased. On Grand Cayman, Frederick Burton and his blue iguanas have benefited from their protected habitat for nearly 2 years.
Joel. There's a hatchling.
Yeah, that's great.
That's the first wild-born young iguana we have ever seen in this area. This is a wild iguana that has hatched here in the protected area.
So it is working.
It's working. It's
Great.
working. I think it's very interesting working on a small island because it is like a microcosm of what is going on everywhere in the world. And it's very important, I think, for people working in conservation to spend at least part of their time working on things that can succeed. It's important for personal motivation, but it's also important for the way that conservation is presented to the world. People get very tired of hearing bad news stories all the time.
The wild birth of a baby iguana is a triumph of nature. On Escudo de Veraguas, the radio signal leads Bryson Boyrin on his quest.
Yeah, you could just see her fur. Hey, buddy. Okay. Look at that. Wow. Whew. Victoria. Yay. Whoa, you're looking big. Oh, man.
That's great.
Oh, she looks great. Look at her.
Yeah.
That's great. She looks like she's been doing very good here in the forest and not in the mangroves, so she looks very healthy.
You know, one thing I think that this shows is that even though the mangroves are being cut, that may not be as big of a risk for the pygmy sloths, because if they're able to eat other things in the forest, at least they have other food sources besides just the mangroves. So I'm pretty confident to say that there are more sloths than just 63 on Escudo. There are probably a lot more. If they're in the whole island here like this, that means the population is pretty good.
Ready to go?
All right,
Yeah,
Victoria.
back to home, sweet home.
So the locals were right. If the pygmy sloths are spread over the entire island and live in its abundant forest, scientists will have to re-examine their numbers and maybe even the status of the species. It's fantastic news for the pygmy three-toed sloth. This important discovery was the result of collaboration between scientists and the island's inhabitants.
El último es. ¿Dónde está el
But the happiness of this day is short-lived. Not far away, a nasty surprise awaits the scientists. A green turtle, another endangered species, is trapped in the dugout of a group of poachers.
So they're in the islands, you know, so they're probably gonna cut it up, smoke it, and then they will cook it slowly. And they'll finish with it. And this animal can stay at least a week before he starts to get weak.
Do they really know what they're doing?
I really think they really know what they do. The police would come around here maybe 1 or 2 times in a month, just pass around looking for drugs people, but they really don't looking to see if people killing sea turtle.
That's pretty sad to see.
It's pretty sad, you know, for me, it's because, you know, I worked 13 years protecting sea turtle with the Peter Maitland Animal Project in Cayman. And my father got more than 20 years saving them, you know, trying to save them, and I do the same, you know, so it's pretty sad to see they catch it and they're going to kill it, you know.
Poaching is yet another threat in the fight to conserve endangered species. And the problem is widespread, even in protected areas.
So? Bad news? Nothing?
Nothing. We checked all the traps again, where we put the extra pheromones out last night, and nothing.
No tracks, nothing.
No tracks. We actually went along a couple extra trails and checked that where there were some muddy spots from the rain that we had the other day. We haven't seen a track since you've been here.
Well, that's life, I suppose.
Yep, we're obviously very concerned about what might be causing this. Even if we have all this conservation momentum behind us, it can just take a few people to come in and maybe snare some animals, which is what we're hearing. It's depressing.
But where are Cora and the other jaguars? There are rumors that poachers have recently been operating inside the reserve, and two of them were even bold enough to brag of their horrible acts on social networks.
Oh my God, that's sad.
It's a catastrophe for the local population, which numbers only 14 jaguars.
How far should we go to protect threatened species? A private militia patrols the reserve every day. Around here, they don't mess around when it comes to conservation. There are rampant rumors that up to 11 jaguars have been killed in the region, possibly even within the boundaries of the reserve. Jaguar skins have been found on the black market.
It makes me sad because it's as if they were threatening members of my own family. So I don't know what we're going to do with these poachers. So much work, love, and sacrifice over so many years, only to see our jaguars killed. We're going to return to the mountain and try to find these hunters who shoot at anything that moves.
On Little Cayman, another type of hunting party is being organized. Local diving associations are mobilizing to wipe out the lionfish, the species now considered the worst poacher in the Caribbean. But the divers must keep up the hunting pressure if they are going to neutralize this invasion, because lionfish reproduce extremely quickly. This is not sustainable. So they have turned to a more natural solution. They are enlisting the help of the few groupers that live near the coastline. Little by little, they are training them to hunt the invader. Who knows whether these few fish will develop a taste for the lionfish and transmit this new feeding habit to other fish. Earth's ecosystems are today weakened and threatened by a variety of external pressures. Conservation efforts are vital, but the hard work of many can be completely undone by the greed of just a few.
Buying the turtle's freedom cost only a few dollars. A modest sum given the situation. We even wondered if we were not trying to appease our own conscience in the face of so much indifference. But this was a living symbol of nature's difficult coexistence with humanity. We just couldn't leave it there and do nothing.
I'm optimistic because I believe we can change things, and if human being realizes the importance, there's still something we can do, but we are right on the edge.
The coral reef system could be in dire straits, but we need to take efforts in order to mitigate these, and we can stop fishing larger fish and keep them on the reef, and it's important that we do it now.
I'm not really sure which species will survive and which will survive in the future, but I think life will find a way.
The lionfish invasion really highlights for me is the importance for humans to understand that they can have a drastic effect, and they need to realize what they're doing before they do it.
When you're in a forest with predators, it gives you a new respect for life. It gives you a new respect for the connectivity of all things. You actually feel like you're not on the top of the world. Maybe that's where we should begin, is to not just educate people in the classroom, but take people out of the classroom into what's left of the wilderness so that we can actually save it.
If you inspire people and educate them, I think then they'll start to care more about it and help protect it.
The troubled coexistence between humans and the different forms of life on our planet too often translates into the loss of species that play key roles in ecosystems. Perhaps we can draw inspiration from the remarkable work of scientists who dedicate their lives to preserving endangered species. Humanity has a duty to re-establish a harmonious relationship with nature, and do it soon. It is within our grasp to sustainably and harmoniously develop the Earth's resources. But time is running out if our legacy to future generations is to inspire a wave of change and a new attitude, one of respect for biodiversity and the essential harmony among all forms of life.
With every dive, we are struck by the extraordinary biodiversity of the oceans. The goal of this mission is to document this biodiversity and appreciate its astonishing beauty. But we are also seeing the fragility of the balance between species. Unfortunately, we are in the process of quickly destroying what nature has taken millions of years to perfect and adapt.
The extraordinary diversity of life on Earth is expressed in a variety of shapes and colors. The result of slow evolution, plant and animal species interact in equilibrium to form the great tree of life. Present in our waters for probably more than 400 million years, sharks are valuable predators that contribute to the vital balance of the oceans. However, nearly a third of the 64 species of sharks and rays in the world are now threatened with extinction, mainly due to overfishing. And they are not alone in this unenviable list of humanity's victims. Sea turtles have likely inhabited the oceans for over 100 million years. Of the Earth's 7 species of sea turtles, 6 are on the red list of species that are threatened or vulnerable. Among the oldest creatures of the sea, turtles have survived all of the natural disasters in Earth's history. But today, they are threatened by pollution, poaching, loss of critical habitat, and accidental entrapment in commercial fishing gear. In the space of just a few decades, humanity has managed to endanger the world's sea turtles, species that have withstood every other assault in the Earth's past. Fortunately, scientists all over the world are organizing to develop effective protection and conservation measures.
We headed to Coco Island, famous for its pirate legends and the hidden treasure from Spanish ships that is said to be buried here. It's why we also call it Treasure Island. But for scientists, the real treasure is found in its exceptional biodiversity.
Located off the coast of Costa Rica in the Pacific Ocean, Cocos Island is a veritable paradise for divers and scientists. Known for its abundance of sharks and turtles, Cocos Island is home to a remarkable diversity of marine life. In these crystalline waters, the crew of the Sedna 4 were able to capture their first turtle, a real challenge for the divers. This green turtle will become part of a large research program to determine the migratory route of the species.
The power of a green turtle's flippers is truly amazing. They are excellent swimmers, and their evolution has produced a huge muscle mass around the flipper joints. Obviously, this makes catching one a difficult operation.
This feisty male is refusing to cooperate, but the scientists have met his kind before. This turtle will be equipped with acoustic and satellite transmitters, which will help us better understand the migratory routes used by the species.
Once we got the turtle aboard the inflatable boat, we brought it to the Sedna 4, where a team of biologists was waiting. We have a special lift for large animals, so we lowered it into the Sedna's workshop, where biologists could attach the various transmitters. We invited 2 eminent turtle specialists on this trip to Coco Island. They often work in this region of the Pacific. These biologists became activists out of necessity because they firmly believe that taking real action in the field is the only way to change things.
Oh, let me see. Is there any 4062 there? No. See, now it's
Biologist Randall Arouse has devoted much of his life to the protection of sea turtles.
super verified.
He is accompanied by Todd Steiner, a biologist with the Sea Turtle Restoration Project, an organization dedicated to the conservation of sea turtles and their habitat. Todd and Randall organize yearly scientific expeditions to Cocos Island to monitor turtle and shark populations.
Okay. Okay, we hold it here.
Okay, so take the measurements and then you do the tagging and I'll tag her. And you can tag her and I'll...
Yeah.
Okay, so hold her there, Cheapo. Okay. Okay, put this right there where the skin starts and the shell ends, or like right there, okay.
74 and a half.
Yeah, 74 and a half, yeah, let's say 74 and a half. And width?
What do you got?
72.
72. This is the first time we've caught this turtle. Hasn't been marked before. Putting a tag on now, permanent tag.
Okay. Check the lock.
Check. Perfect. PE 312.
Where are you gonna do it?
Same place. Right. Okay, it's locked. PE 313.
This is an acoustic tag, and these are the same tags we use for the sharks. And since we already have a system of listening stations around the island for the sharks, then we use the same system for the turtles. Okay. Okay. We've had turtles with the tag on for over a year, sometimes a few months. And sometimes it seems like they're pretty permanently in there with cables and everything, but they do fall off.
In the old days of sailors, couldn't keep fresh meat on board for very long, so they would stop at islands like this, grab turtles, put them on their back, and they could last for months. Come down once a week, just pour some water on it to keep it from drying out, and then they could use the meat as they needed. So turtles played a major role in the exploration of the world.
Okay.
The green turtles of the Caribbean that people are more familiar with are purely vegetarians. They eat turtle grass, which is an algae. So they grow very slowly. This satellite transmitter will send a signal up to a satellite up in space, and then that will send the signal to my computer, and I'll know right where this turtle is every day. We're trying to understand what the migration routes are. So when this turtle's here at Cocos Island, it's protected because there's a 12 nautical mile no fishing zone. As soon as it swims out of that, we don't know. It could get caught on a fishing line and be killed. So our goal is to understand where these turtles go and then create marine protected swimways. So if they're swimming to Galapagos, we want to connect their swimways. We want to understand their migration routes and be able to protect them by closing fishing areas. So as you're doing that, we want to try to keep it kind of as hydrodynamic as we can. We've had turtles go as far as Panama. We've had turtles go to Costa Rica. We've had turtles go to Costa Rica and then swim up the shore all the way to El Salvador and then head back out to sea. And a lot of our turtles like it in Cocos and stay right around here.
The juveniles, or the young ones, they definitely stay here for a number of years. For instance, we have turtles that we tagged here 2.5 years ago, and they're still there in Dirty Rock, for instance. So the young turtles live here, and the adults just swing by, and then they take off and continue their migration.
There are different policies to protect turtles, for instance, special hooks, circle hooks, which they're less likely to swallow. But the best way is to protect the ecosystem, protect the habitat that they need to live. So if we can close those areas to fishing, then we'll have turtles for our kids to see and our grandkids.
After a few hours, our guest can return to the sea. Randall and Todd check that the transmitters are working so this Pacific green turtle can regain its freedom.
Now we have to be careful with the satellite transmitter. So let's do that.
The transmitters on this green turtle will provide scientists with data on its movements.
Okay. I'm basically, yes, in love with turtles.
This adult male has nothing to fear within Cocos Island National Park, but the protected area extends only about 12 nautical miles around the island. Beyond this border, turtles and other migratory animals of the island risk getting caught up in the baited lines of the long line boats.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
I think we can say mission accomplished. The data gathered by the satellite transmitter will tell us more about the turtles' movements and may one day be used to establish protective corridors in areas where fishing is banned. But we must continue to raise awareness because there's still a lot of work to do before these essential conservation measures are put in place.
The Sedna heads for the Guanacaste region of Costa Rica. Known for its white sandy beaches, the area attracts tourists from all over the world.
Beaches are an essential habitat for our planet's different species of sea turtle. They have served as egg-laying sites for millions of years, and they are vital for their survival. No beaches, no turtles. It's simple as that. But in recent years, beaches have undergone major changes, due mainly to a population boom of one species in particular, human beings. Not only do we use and transform beaches for recreation, but real estate development is constantly destroying this essential turtle habitat. Once female turtles reach sexual maturity, they return to the very same spot where they hatched to lay their eggs. This may be 15, 20, 30, even up to 40 years later in some species. After all those years, the turtles often return to find the beaches occupied by houses, lights that disorient them at night, or hotel patios. So the turtles often have a hard time laying their eggs safely.
The problems of coexistence between sea turtles and humans are not new. You have to go back well before the arrival of tourists and the Costa Rican real estate boom to understand the origins of the problem, at a time when the beaches were a meeting place for local villagers. They did not come to enjoy the white sand and the waves. In fact, they would come mostly at night when turtles came ashore to lay their eggs. Some Costa Ricans still remember that not-so-distant past, when local traditions contributed greatly to the decline of the turtle population.
What do the leatherback turtles mean to you?
I feel there's something beautiful. They're so natural to me, a part of my life that I would never want to disappear. I remember that when I was young, my dad used to take us to the beach. He would say, "Let's go to the beach to collect eggs."
It was normal to do that?
Yes, but only to eat, never to sell.
It was part of the culture.
Yes.
What was it like with the leatherbacks in those days?
It was beautiful. There were so many of them, so many leatherbacks. It was incredible to see them on the beach at night. Biologists used to say that the leatherbacks would disappear, but we didn't believe them because there were just so many. Every season they'd say that we needed to protect them. And they were right, because we started seeing less and less.
The economic hardships of those days played an important role in the illegal collection of turtle eggs. While the consumption of turtle eggs has long been a family tradition, it is their trade that continues to cause irreparable harm to turtle populations. Poachers can still fetch high prices for turtle eggs, and this threat is not a new phenomenon. One repentant poacher agrees to talk about it.
Those were very hard years for everyone around here. There wasn't much work, and most people dedicated themselves to agriculture and animal farming. There was very little money to be made working the fields and fishing, so people had to find a way to make a little extra to help support their families. And an easy way to make money was by collecting turtle eggs. It was well paid. I also did it. You'd set up a stake and then walk 50 to 100 meters, maybe even more, and then put up another one, which meant that all the turtles within those boundaries were yours. In just one night, around 200 to 300, maybe even 400 leatherback turtles would come. Nowadays, sometimes 1 or 2, maximum 5 come. People would come to the beach, wait until the turtles laid their eggs, and collect them. On your way out, the egg buyer would be waiting on the street. In one night, you could collect 100 to 120 dozen eggs, and in some places more. If I remember correctly, they'd pay 400 colones, sometimes up to 600 per dozen. So as you can see, 100 dozen at 400 colones was good money.
We just met 2 policemen, and of course, I took the time to ask them about the problem. They obviously were reluctant to talk in front of the camera, but what they told me was clearly that there are poachers, especially in the area on the other side of the bay, and people are selling their eggs throughout Ostional. Ostional is a place about 2 hours from here where there are huge beachings of turtles, and there is a big laundering of turtle eggs in Ostional. They say all the eggs come from Ostional, so it's okay to sell them. I'm told that there are bars where for $1 you can have a cold beer with a beautiful turtle egg with Tabasco sauce. They drink it, and it's ecstasy. So the community still has a special relationship with these eggs.
Rodney Piedrachacon is director of Las Bolas National Park. Rodney and his team will spend the night on a small, isolated beach. Another long night spent protecting turtles from poachers seeking to steal the precious eggs.
Tonight, I'm going to take you to one of the most important beaches for green sea turtles, at least in our country. It's called Nombre de Jesus. It's a very beautiful, undeveloped beach by a forested area. It's a great nesting ground for this species. To protect endangered species like this one, it requires commitment from everyone. We all understand that there are many interests at stake: scientific, community, development, and fishing interests. Nonetheless, it's very important that we find a common goal so we can support each other in this struggle for conservation. Reducing poaching to protect the eggs is an essential factor for conservation.
Is the only way to access the beach?
By vehicle, yes. This is the only route. There's a way to get there by foot, but you have to go over a mountain, so it's difficult to access.
This is tricky. Maybe through the middle. One wheel there, one over here.
Listo. Made it. In our country, there are protected and unprotected areas. At present, this is a very important nesting ground. So to ensure the conservation of this species, we're putting a lot of effort into creating a management strategy for this area. We organize ourselves every night on the beach. One of the first things we do is walk the whole length of the beach together. This way, we can get an overall idea of what is happening on the beach, of whether there are people and turtles or not. The idea is to have some time to calmly analyze the situation. When we find tracks, we stop and follow the trail to see what the turtle is doing, and immediately we all get to work.
Those lights over there, what are they?
The main reason we all come together is so the egg poachers see a big group of conservation workers and know that we're here to back each other.
3, 4, 5 que están respaldados todos juntos. No. Sí, ya vi.
Esas luces en el fondo que
We think they may be egg poachers, so we'll have to be more careful from now on.
Con más cautela.
We decided to use the night, too, to witness the spectacular sight of green turtles laying their eggs. But in certain areas of Costa Rica, it's not a good idea to walk the beaches alone, because poachers are still very active. So we decided to accompany a team of biologists from Las Bolas National Park in their work to protect egg-laying sites. In recent years, turtle egg poachers have started working with drug traffickers in certain areas of Costa Rica. Poachers can earn up to $300 a night by selling eggs on the black market. The eggs are worth about $1 each on the street. In 2012, a heavily armed group of poachers got into a turtle egg nursery, a place where turtle eggs that have been collected by volunteers are placed until they reach maturity. The volunteers were tied up, and the poachers made off with over 1,500 eggs. The message is clear. Poachers do not want turtle conservationists on their beaches.
We'll start by measuring the length and then width of the shell. You can check on the other side to see if the turtle has a metal mark or tag. If it does, read out the identification number so she can log it.
Para que ella pueda escribirlo en la hoja. Okay. LO 628. Listo. Escriba ahí. ¿Cuánto?
Así, sí. Oh, wow. I'm going to dig a bit so we can see better. It's a little complicated right now because there are many roots.
Do you want help?
No, that's all right.
Oh, wow. Que anda hoy en playa, entonces.
Today we're going to move the eggs to a different location here on the beach. So you'll be able to see how we move them. If this were a protected area, the nests would remain untouched because there would be 24-hour surveillance.
Normalmente, si es un área protegida, entonces los niños quedan in situ. Entonces tenemos protección.
But at this time, we can't protect the beach 24 hours a day. So we have to move the eggs to a safer location.
How many are there?
There are 56 at the moment.
How long does it take?
She can last 10 to 15 minutes. She's still laying eggs.
Como las baulas tienen, ella tiene el momento que está poniendo los huevos, tiene un momento de...
Is the turtle in a kind of trance as she lays her eggs?
Yes. Actually, all turtles go into a trance-like state in order to be able to shift their muscles to lay their eggs.
Por esa razón.
That's why. When she's done, we have to leave because she starts moving.
It's very moving. Oh yes, it's amazing that she does all this work. A half hour of preparation, and she closes it up all with great care, and the eggs are not even there. She does not even know that eggs are not there.
What we're going to do now is bury the eggs in another location on the beach. The others at this time are digging the cavity where we'll put the eggs, a spot we consider much safer.
En este sitio que consideramos que es bastante seguro.
How deep will it be?
The idea is that the depth of the nest has to be similar to the depth the turtle gave it, so between 45 and 50 centimeters. Once we've reached the right depth, we'll carefully place the eggs into the cavity.
What's great is that, for generations, these young people would normally have learned to become poachers. But this is a new generation, and their mentality has changed. It's the young people who are taking things in hand and trying to save the turtles. It's great.
After, we'll place an aluminum tag that will allow us to identify the nest in the next 45 days, when the hatchlings emerge. Now, we'll bury the nest. And Luis will pack down the sand as best as he can to protect the eggs. After that, we will mark the nest in relation to that stake over there.
If the poacher find the little stick,
what we do now is bury the tag in the sand so that when we find it, we can see from which nest the hatchlings emerged and which turtle laid those eggs. That's how we can determine what this turtle's hatching success was in regards to this nest and all the nests.
Of these 82 eggs, how many will make it into the water?
The hatching success last season was between 80 and 90%.
It's great to see young people involved in protecting turtles. Their work on the beaches will save many turtles, but will, above all, help change people's mentality. This is essential if we want the new generation to change their ways and condemn poaching. I think the new generation is ready to do everything it can to protect these threatened species.
There aren't many egg poachers left.
And then what has changed?
People's mentality. And the fact that Tamarindo has developed into a tourist destination, creating more job opportunities.
What's your job now?
I'm a tour guide. After poaching, many of us became tourist promoters, and we learned a bit about the biology of the turtle.
There are far fewer poachers on the beaches around Guanacaste now, especially since Las Bolas National Park was created. Today, tourists come from all over the world to witness turtles laying their eggs. But poaching is still a serious issue in some areas of Costa Rica, and illegal egg trafficking still threatens the survival of turtle species. If we want to save them from extinction, we must continue to educate people.
Our objective is to maintain the turtle population that nests in the area. And to do that, we need to make sure those eggs are laid and hatched here. We believe that our efforts are essential if we want to preserve such an important and beautiful species.
How do you see the future?
I believe that we're very committed. And we're convinced that we can recover these populations. It's been a very long process trying to educate people. It has required strong commitment. But by the number of people now getting involved, I think Costa Rica is becoming more environmentally conscious and committed. Not just the organizations, but the communities themselves are becoming involved in protecting their resources. They are becoming empowered by making this struggle their own. I think the fact that we're out every night, 6 or 7 hours trying to save these nests, is so very important. I know we might not see the results of our efforts in the short term, maybe not even in our lifetime, but most likely our children will see the results in 20 or 30 years. And they'll know that all the efforts of conservation made by those who started this were worth it, and that they must continue.
Bueno, ¿vamos a dormir?
Vamos a dormir.
Vamos a dormir.
Vamos.
Por favor.
The magnificent Playa Grande Beach in the Guanacaste area is a favorite destination for day tourists. But at the end of the day, the tourists must leave because the beach is now a protected area. After nightfall, no one is allowed on the beach, with the exception of a few biologists and volunteer patrollers. At night, this beach belongs to one of the oldest and most remarkable creatures of the sea, the leatherback turtle. At high tide, this female leatherback turtle comes ashore to lay her eggs, just as others have done before her for millions of years. For over 20 years, the organization, the Leatherback Trust, has protected the turtles of Playa Grande. Biologists James Patilla and Frank Palladino have been part of the organization since its beginning. In all those years, they have fought many battles.
It's an animal which has a flexible shell because it's not hard bone. It's got little bones with cartilage in between. It's got a leathery shell, that's where it gets its name, a skin like a dolphin on the shell and on the flippers. It has a pink spot on the middle of its head, which is where the pineal gland is. It has some signaling for hormones. The skull's only half as thick there. They can dive a mile deep like a whale, so the shell collapses when they do that, gets compressed. And they only eat jellyfish. So they must be our friend. We don't like jellyfish.
She looks to be about 145 centimeters long, probably around 18 to 20 years of age. And she's finished nesting. She's now in the process of early bearing. But you can see how delicately she's using her hands to pat the sand down and to pack it so that the eggs are in a nice location. And then she will start to camouflage and cover all around here.
When we came here, the number of turtles nesting per year was 1,500. And then it declined exponentially, so by big steps. To the present time, there's about maybe 50 nesting a year. But it's bottomed out the last 3 or 4 years, so we think that we're due for a comeback. The new turtles that we see now are as a result of these students and volunteers who are on this beach for 20 years. And so, yeah, those are our turtles who are coming back.
You have an opportunity to see a dinosaur come out of the ocean and do all these very intricate behaviors. And I don't think there's anybody who ever walks away from this beach after seeing this experience that hasn't been awed.
The first time we came on the beaches here, Frank Palladino had to pay the local poacher for permission to work on a turtle after he took the eggs. Then he was okay if we studied the physiology of the turtle. After the park was founded and we got more involved and Frank taught the people English and we taught them some biology, now those poachers all became guides, ecotourism guides, so they make more money, cleaner. Now at this point, their children are the guides.
Right now, this is a national park. There's national park guards. We have very good protection. There's an occasional poacher, which is usually a stranger who's come into town, and a lot of times they're Nicaraguans that come down here to work on construction of homes and so on, and they want to make some quick money so they can catch a bus and go back home and visit their family. But for the most part, the local people are no longer the poachers. As a matter of fact, whereas before they were against the park, it is the local people who are the strongest supporters of the park.
When we first came here, the people used to be poachers. They hated us. They didn't like us in the local village. Now we're friends. Our students are friends with the young people. I think it made a big difference. So the people see that these turtles are a benefit to them. I think it's very important.
The relentless work of Frank Palladino, James Spotilla, and countless volunteers is truly inspiring and proves that mentalities can be changed. But in certain areas of Costa Rica, much work remains to be done. For example, in 2013, a 26-year-old biology student named Jairo Mora Sandoval was kidnapped from a beach in Costa Rica along with 4 other patrollers. Drug traffickers and poachers were fed up with turtle protection campaigns and wanted their beaches back. That night, the young biologist was tied up, beaten, and shot in the head. Jairo Mora Sandoval died simply for wanting to protect a threatened species. This tragic story made headlines around the world, and environmental groups responded by offering a reward to find those responsible. The government of Costa Rica has promised an inquiry. The protection of turtles and beaches is often spearheaded by the work of passionate people and volunteers who come from around the world to get involved. Unfortunately, the weapons of poachers everywhere are often intimidation and violence. We must continue to highlight and support protection efforts and encourage volunteers to patrol the beaches in order to change people's mentality. This is probably the only true hope for the future.
Les changements de mentalité qui constituent probablement le seul véritable espoir pour demain.